Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today's story is a continuation of a series of strange events. And I would like to give you a quick idea of what had happened in the first part of the story. Abir and Ali got married, and Abir had a stepmother who was very rude to her and actually literally used to torture her. And she was the one who planned to get her married as quick as possible. But Abir was lucky because Ali was a very good man. But she used to hear strange noises in the house as people in the neighborhood said that the house was haunted. While she was pregnant, she asked and begged Ali to explain her what was going on, what was wrong with the house. So here Ali explained her his part of the story. He said that his grandfather's brother was somewhat I would say blessed. He had a very good memory. And then he said to one of his neighbors that the daughter he was holding was not his daughter, was the daughter of his brother. Here, they actually, of course, he threatened his wife and said that, "Is this your child?" Abu Jaber said to his wife. She said, "Yes, Nora is my daughter." Then, when he said that there was a huge resemblance between Nora and Abu Yaqub and his wife, here Abu Yaqub went to his wife. His wife, she acknowledged that Nora was their daughter and not the daughter of Abu Jaber and his wife, which naturally meant that Yaqub was not their son, but rather he was the nephew of Abu Yaqub. She begged him for forgiveness and sobbed when he threatened to kill. She explained that she had been afraid that she had brought a daughter into this world after giving birth for the first time, then the second time around, and every time, that is, she gave birth to a daughter. So when she gave birth to her last daughter, her brother's wife, it was a coincidence that she delivered a boy. This gave her the idea that she asked the midwife to do her a favor. She bribed, the midwife of gold and money, and she said, "Whatever I have is yours. Just get me Yaqub and take Nora to Yaqub's mother." And the midwife accepted this offer, and she took Nora to the other woman who was her husband's brother's wife. Now, after accepting and confessing that she had replaced the children and knowing that Nora was his daughter, here Abu Yaqub said that means I'm not Abu Yaqub. And this guy literally cried and fell on the ground. So he said, "He's not my son." She believed that she would adopt him, keep him and raise him while Abu Yaqub would be delighted to have a son. And she wouldn't have to worry that he would leave her because she couldn't give birth to a boy because she had all daughters. I would like to explain that there are people with this mentality that they have to have a son, and accepting the fact that they don't have a son and all daughters makes them either marry another woman or they actually give divorce to the first wife. So she was afraid that he would do so. So she gave all her belongings to the midwife just to bring Yaqub to her and take Nora to the other woman. And here the midwife was acting as if it was like she came out of the door and said, "Congratulations, Abu Yaqub, you are blessed with a boy." This is what happened. Now, all the family members knew what was happening and they gave their child to each other. Yaqub went to his real parents and Nora went to her parents too. But it didn't matter, it didn't help them. It would have been better if things were left the way they were and people would be unaware of this instead of exposing them. Now, Ali, let's talk about Ali. Ali, who is grandfather's brother of Ali himself. Ali was named after his grandfather's brother. So Ali here had a disease. Now, do you believe that when I heard this story, I started looking for such a disease and trying to do a research or something. And it's true, it exists. It's a rare disease that happens every century. Like 12 people in the world, I would say, every century have. They're aware of everything. They understand from very early age. They know who their father is, who their mother is. From the very beginning of their life, means from the first year of their life, they actually know what's happening and they don't forget. That means, for example, this disease, I would say, is like you don't forget stuff. I believe we can say it would be a greatest blessing given to them from the God Almighty. But a person, if remembering things and being, I would say, a genius, I would say, is a blessing. Even forgetting is a blessing. Forgetting sadness, worries, forgetfulness is a blessing, because if a person doesn't forget, he will worry all his life. I wouldn't say you have to forget every single thing, but sometimes it's better because life will go on. I mean, if someone close to you will leave this world, doesn't mean that life will stop. Now, when you put something away, it stays with you forever. If it's not with you, someone or something else will remind you of it. And that's again natural. Keep your happiness and sadness to yourself. That's what memories are. I do not want to get out of the subject. Therefore, this was the disease Ali was suffering from. Means if he hears or if he heard a word or anything else, he wouldn't forget. And he would read or listen to anything and just memorize it at the very moment. I don't know what kind of memory I would say. It would be a fictional memory. So when he was almost 1 year old, his mother was like helping the midwife at the moment. The midwife, let me remind you, the midwife who was actually helping the women, Abu Yaqub's wife and Abu Jabir's wife. This midwife was helping them give birth. And Ali's mother was there. She was also helping the midwife here. So she was assisting. When they were giving birth here, she placed her son Ali on the ground as he was a baby, a 1 year old, and she started running around to get water or whatever the midwife was instructing her to do. He actually saw the midwife. Just imagine, Ali was watching the midwife carrying Nora away from her mother and taking the boy away from Jabir and bringing it, like exchanging the whole thing. So he remembered, he just memorized the whole scene, the whole story, just by watching. The problem here was that once this boy, he was staying with his parents as usual. He was hanging around with his father. And a man visited them, and he was quite old. So he said, "Sir, how are you alive? You're quite old. You should have been dead by now." Now, that's wrong. But children do say stuff which they don't mean. So this man literally went back to his house saying that, talking to his wife, that this boy is a little demon and he predicts things. So I'm really afraid and uncomfortable of what he said. And she was like, this is a child and it can happen. He's just curious and that's it. But this person literally, he passed away. He was sitting and talking to his wife, and the moment she turned and left him for a while and came back, she found him dead. Here she started screaming and hitting herself, and she realized that Ali was the cause. She then shouted and sobbed. She said, "My God, this is all because of Ali." And the people here gathered, of course, the neighbor and the family members, and she was saying that Ali was the one, before he died, before he explained the whole thing, that this boy was saying that, as if he was predicting that this is the time, this is the moment you're going to die. But he didn't say so. But people believed her. So Ali was called Ali the Devil by now. They thought that maybe he would do something else. He might burn the house of a person or kill someone else, or so he lived a bleak life. All the people talked about him, and the child couldn't defend himself, of course. And even his father, if he wanted to send his child to a school, he wanted his son to attend the school, or in those days it was like they used to say a mullah, but he couldn't, because now the whole, I would say the area, the whole place was talking about him and his a certain, they thought, a misfortune. Now, as a parent, of course, you will die of distress and fear if someone says a word about your child. But of course, Ali lived in pure pressure every day of his life, and his father was oppressed, and he was very upset. Now, do not forget that Abu Jabr had an elder son. Ali's sibling, his eldest brother, was the one who stood by his side. His brother, Jabr, he always said him that you don't have to care. And as he was growing up, he became 14 to 15 years old by now, and the only thing he knew was that his brother had a very powerful memory, and whatever people said was untrue. He also made sure that Ali would understand this, that because he's blessed, people would be maybe jealous of him or wouldn't like him. But on the other hand, people actually, the reality was that Ali was called as a devil's uncle. And the reason, of course, Satan was the one telling him everything that was unseen and unknown. One day, Abu Jabr went complaining about what was happening to Ali to Mullah Hussein. Mullah Hussein is like a sheikh, I would say. It's someone who helps kids memorize Quran, and at the same time, they also say adhan in the mosque. So actually, they have, I would say, not the complete knowledge of Islam, but most of it. So if someone has any doubts about something or any other matter, they can go and discuss to any mullah or sheikh, and they would literally help them. As I said, he was the one who helped Ali memorize the Quran. So Ali had memorized the whole Quran almost when he was 3 to 4 years. I mean, the whole Quran, it's a big deal, and it's a beautiful thing. But he did not know what was happening around him that time. Everything related to Ali had become weird in the eyes of people. Here, as I said, Abu Jabr went to the mullah and he said that something's wrong with my son, so I would love you to find a cure for him. And every individual he sees may pass away as soon as possible if the words were genuine. I mean, he said Ali suffers from a disease. So he said that he claimed that despite the passage of time, he hasn't forgotten anything that happened to him since he was a year old. Now the mullah said that I have a cure, but this cure is used under extreme and significant circumstances. For example, he would steer on his head 37 times. That means he would heat a metal and burn different parts of his body 37 times. This custom, I would say, or this, I would say, a medical procedure on those days, they used to say, was persisted into the 1970s and 1980s and is still practiced today, though it is uncommon. Alternatively, they would burn circles on the head or the body parts by heating metal and pressing it against the body. The sheikh advised him to ensure that when bringing him, he should be very aware that he shouldn't inform Jabr about this and his mother. Because if Jabr knows or knew that his father is going to do such a thing with him, he would never allow. Therefore, Abu Jabr took Ali to the house of Mullah, but without informing Jabr himself. Because they knew that Jabr would never allow this, as I said before, because he loved his brother so much. So he informed his wife and Jabr before leaving that I'm going to Mullah Hussein. Yes, I am going to Mullah Hussein because he just wants to read the ayahs of the Holy Quran. That's it. He wants to recite the Holy Quran for him. So don't be afraid, and I'll come back as soon as possible. He entered the house of Mullah Ali and they closed the door with an iron block or lock so that no one could enter the door whatsoever. They tied the boy, a boy of 14 and 15 years, thinking that he would cause a danger, or maybe if he moves, he would cause the burn to be on the places which are not required. He was seeing his dad heating the iron bars, and which was almost like embers, and started burning him. As he started burning Mullah Hussein started burning him, he started screaming and calling out his brother's name, Jabr, very loudly. He could be heard shouting from across the entire street. People started literally locking the doors after listening Ali scream, because they believed that after he would scream, the devil would escape from his body and enter some other body or someone else. People were frightened of him, and the entire city, or the entire street, I would say, was deserted. He was screaming for his father to stop, but the man said that this is a course of action that has been considered a cure, except the fact that nothing will occur. Mullah Hussein kept lighting the irons and heating them again and again and started burning the boy's head, and different parts of her body, his eyebrows, his ears, and his legs. It was like 37 times until he fainted. They literally caused him to become deformed. His face, his body, it was all deformed. And even after he had fainted, they continued burning his parts of the body until they would complete this 37th time. The boy, he began to lose his strength. He ended up on the verge of death. His brother Jabir, of course, heard what was happening, and he and his mother went straight through the streets to the house of Mullah Hussein. They began banging the door and they attempted to smash it down because they didn't know what was happening inside, except people said that your son is in the house of Mullah Hussein and he's screaming as if the devil's going to come out, and the whole town is like literally petrified of what is happening inside. After banging the door, Mullah Hussein eventually opened it, allowing them to see Ali on the ground. It was that he has to stay at the house till the morning per the agreement between the father and Mullah. Of course, when Jabir saw his brother on the ground and his mother, they couldn't do anything except crying because people didn't know what was happening and everyone was blaming Ali for some reason or the other. And that's it. What happened. The next day, they had to take Ali to the beach because seawater will help with the injuries. Now they left the house of Mullah Hussein, and the crucial fact was that Abu Jabir visited the house of Mullah when daybreak came, and Ali was unconscious prior to this. His body was supposed to be placed on top of a wooden boat, I would say. And then they would push Ali into the seawater, and pull him out again and again to actually cover the wounds with seawater. The mullah instructed Abu Jabir and his son to hold on to the body till he comes back. And they were inside the sea, of course, but they had a strong grip on Ali. So they were holding on to his body and waiting for the seawater or the waves to come and hit his body every now and then. Now, upon arriving, it was a different story. They tried to keep Ali away so that he wouldn't drown and kept hold on him. But during this time period, the waves were so strong, stronger than any time as normally, they were pulled. All three of them were pulled into the sea. Mullah Ali, after seeing this, ran as fast as he could, and he started screaming. People were gathered to find out what had happened, and he said that look for Abu Jabir and look for his son and for Ali. Now, after 5 hours, they found corpses floating on the sea, and the only one survived was Ali. He was tossed by the sea, except Abu Jabir and Mullah Hussein's son. Now, people in the village were dying from fear as per usual. But what would happen to Ali after his wounds were healed? He would become like a deformed person, not a normal human being. But people started calling him an ugly, deformed person or a Satan, or as they said. And they said he was the one who had slaughtered his father and the son of the Mullah Hussein. He was again the reason. The people of the village were dying from terror. Jabir had to actually move away from everything. He took his mother and his brother, and they were all left alone. After a time period, their mother died, and the only one who were remaining were Jabir and his brother Ali. And Jabir never left his brother alone. Of course, all the neighbors ran away from Ali when they spotted him. Additionally, the poor man ultimately lost his vulnerability due to the rumors and problems that followed him. Jabir found a good lady and he married her. And then he was blessed with a son and called him Muhammad. Now, Muhammad also grew up and he got married. And then he was fortunate enough to have a son and he named him Ali. Jabir, the brother of Ali, died. Muhammad started taking care of his father's brother, Ali. And Muhammad Before he could pass away or die, he said his son Ali to take care of his grandfather. Muhammad took care of Ali after his father's death, and he told his son Ali to take care of his grandfather's brother Ali. This wretched person languished behind closed doors for days and years. The house was said to be haunted by rumors that they were being propagated. However, his brother's grandson was hiding him inside the house, and he was making all kind of noises and crying and whining in the house all night. And the reason behind him crying was because he used to wait for his brother's grandson to bring him food and sit with him and talk with him. But he couldn't find anyone else, of course, because no one wanted him or even knew that he existed after years. Well, he couldn't live a normal life, he couldn't find a job, and his whole life was like dedicated to his grandfather's brother. He isolated himself from the rest of the world. Now he said to Abir, "Do you fully comprehend the narrative?" Here Abir broke down into tears. She said, "How is he now? And how old is he?" He said he's almost in his 80s. He claimed that he appeared extremely unattractive and that he's concerned that she would leave the house if she sees him. She said, "No, I swear I won't. I have lived a tough life with my stepmother and her, and I've suffered and I've never complained. Why would I complain now? Let me see him." He said, of course, he took her and she entered and he introduced Abir to his grandfather's brother. But he never forgot what happened to him when he was a child. The pain and the oppression and the people that he met bullied him. That is why he sits all night uncomfortably crying. He remembered everything. This is the summit of the tragedy. And he would never forget a word said to him, except when the moment his brother's grandson enters the room. This is the only moment maybe he would forget everything that has happened to him after all these years. You could just imagine from the age of 15 to 16 being burned in all parts of your body and staying in a room for years and not complaining about it just because someone would have said that this is the right thing to do, to run away from people, because people don't actually would accept him. Abir thankfully embraced him. She actually said that I'm like your daughter, and that she said that I love you. She asked her husband to open the house, and the quarter of the house, whatever he had closed the house and made it smaller, he said, "Open it." And she said, "I'll do everything for him. I'm the one who's going to cook for him and do everything from this day onward." Indeed, Abir was the one who made the house and his life a paradise. And after years, 80 years of suffering, she was the blessing that he was waiting for. She also gave birth to other children, and they all loved him the same way that she did. She was very compassionate, and so were her children. This man now, Ali, had reached his 90s, and during this time period that he had with Abir would naturally stay also in his memory. He died. May God have mercy on him. And Ali and his wife, Abir gave birth to another son and named him Jabr, which was the name of his grandfather who had also done the impossible for his brother. The story of this suffering and his suffering ended from the 50s to the end of 2015, or almost to the end of 2016. That's the end of the story, and thank you for listening.